On this episode of Another Zelda podcast, Kate and David talk about some of their favorite non-playable characters from any game in the series.
Hey, listen! See what I did there?
Whoa!
Welcome to another episode of Another Zelda podcast.
You didn't do it in the super high, like...
Hey, listen!
Something like that.
Listen!
There it is. Lee-san! Did you ever notice she always kind of says, like, Lee-san, though?
Listen!
It's a
Hello!
little different. There it is. Whoa, that was good. Hi, Kate. Who are we?
You got me distracted.
Well, I kind of broke it when you were doing your intro there. I interrupted. I apologize.
So I am one of your hosts for Another Zelda podcast. My name is Kate Fischer, and I'm here, of course, as always, with my co-host, David Geisler.
Hey, Kate. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm well. I'm excited to be recording this episode today.
Yeah, which is favorite NPCs or non-playable characters. So we're going to get into that in just a little bit. But first, I believe we have some feedback.
Ooh, we do.
That we would like to go over.
Yes. This favorite NPCs was your idea to do, and I we just kind of keep like a Google Drive going where we put in ideas for episodes and stuff. And you said, "What if we do NPCs?" And I was really excited about that. However, this kind of feels similar to our Link's Loves episode where we talked about all the different characters that might be in love with Link in all the different games. And I think we kind of left one out. Is it Poya or something in Breath of the Wild? The lady that lives with the main old woman in Kakariko Village, and I'm forgetting her name, Impa.
I'm trying to remember.
She has a huge crush on Link.
Oh, okay. Is that which one is that? I think
Poya.
I get
It's
two
Poya or something like that.
villages confused. Okay.
I don't know. I don't have that in my notes, but I just thought about it now. But anyway, so we have we have actually some feedback from episode 3, which was the episode that we ended up titling Link's Loves, and it was all about the different potential romantic entanglements that Link could have. And actually, Armando Mendez here pointed something out that I think is really pretty exciting. He said on our YouTube page, yes, exclamation point. Maybe he was just agreeing with our general sentiments.
That's
all
excited.
he said. No, that's not all he said. Armando Mendez said, yes, did you forget about Prince Sidon from Breath of the Wild? He's so blatantly flirting with Link. Me being a gay Zelda fan was more than tickled about the idea of Link being gay. Maybe that's why he's not interested in any of the other girls. And then he said, P.S. Keep up the good work. I'm loving this podcast. Well, Armando, thank you so much for your thoughts. I agree that Prince Sidon had a certain energy to him.
Yeah. I feel like I remember him winking a lot, or just kind of be like, wink.
There was a lot of that. And what I really am pleased about is Armando is kind of touching on something about how Link, I do enjoy, we spoke a little bit on that episode about how in the olden days it was a lot more, the boy goes and saves the princess, and there it is. And sometimes video games can still fall into those tropes, but it does seem that as the Zelda series progresses, it gets grayer and grayer with all of that, and I think that that's a good thing.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool. Some of it can be left for interpretation, and it should be, because again, Link is just an avatar for the player, of course.
He does not give us very much to go on in terms of what he is actually feeling.
And it's true, and I thought about this too in our Link's Loves episode. It might have actually been poorly titled because it was more about people who were kind of in love with Link.
Yeah.
He doesn't express too much affection here and there. I think the most emotion Link shows might be for his sister in Wind Waker.
Okay.
I'm making that up right now, but that might be true. He clearly has expressions and stuff about trying to go save her, and he gets upset, and he gets excited when he sees her in the jail and stuff and tries to help her.
Yeah, and I was going to say, it's more either familial or friendship that he gets most
That's true.
emotional about, because in Twilight Princess too, he's clearly happy when those kids are all right.
That is an excellent point. And he certainly has emotion in Skyward Sword as well at certain points when he learns things about himself. Yep. But yeah, you're right. Anyway, that's awesome, Armando. Cool. Thank you, everybody. I have some more listener feedback from Facebook and stuff, but you can always comment to us on our YouTube page, which you can just youtube.com/. Another Zelda podcast. And we have other comments here, but I think we're going to save those for other episodes, because we also just recently our 8 favorite items episode. You and I, Kate. And they maybe weren't the most, we made a couple rules about we could only pick one item from every game. And
so there were plenty that we could have chosen.
Yeah, it created a list that I don't know if I was left to my own devices, I probably would have picked slightly different items, but it was fun to use those rules. I mean, the truth is half my list would have been items from Twilight Princess, to be frank.
Yep.
And we kind of wanted to make sure we didn't do that. So I ended up picking the spinner as my favorite Zelda item, and you picked the double claw shot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I threw up a quick and dirty poll up on Facebook, and I also learned that you can only do 2 items on Facebook polls, which is super weird.
Yeah.
I didn't really advertise it that much. I just kind of let it sit on our page, and some people came through, and I got to tell you,
The spinner one, I know.
spinner one, you saw it because you're an admin on our Facebook page.
Yeah, I know. Mine was maybe not the most interesting, and I think the way that you were talking about it and that you were able to kind of explore more areas that you couldn't before with the spinner, that makes total sense. And the fact that I didn't even realize that, maybe if I had really utilized it more in the game, I would have maybe picked the same thing.
Well, I said in that episode,
So I get it.
Absolutely. I said in that episode that the double claw shot was my absolute second favorite item in the game. You know, for me, it really was the claw shot and the spinner, and I was pleased that you picked the double claw shot as your top. So then, like, kind of by proxy, mine I could still represent that. And it is also my favorite version of the hook shot, so to speak, is the double claw shot in Twilight Princess. And we had plenty of people vote, but then John Michael Elias here commented on our Facebook page, and he said the claw shot is really nice but repetitive from almost every game. Hook shot, long shot, etc.
Sure.
But the spinner, I assume he voted for the spinner, but the spinner was new when Twilight Princess came out, and it was just amazing. So my choice would be the spinner, he even says. And then he got a couple likes there too.
Cool.
Fair enough, right?
Fair enough.
That's cool.
I'll admit my defeat.
Now, this is where it gets a little more interesting because I was a little discouraged that you could only put 2 items on a Facebook poll. So I went over and I investigated Twitter. And you could do at least 4 items as a poll. And so just literally yesterday, the day before we're recording this, we didn't have much time. And I think in the future, I'd like to run these for a couple weeks. I threw up a quick tweet that asked for some people's favorite items. And what I did was I just took our top 4 from the 8 favorite items episode, which was the double claw shot and the spinner, just like on Facebook, but also the remote bombs and somewhat to my dismay, Rock's Feather. I kind of forgot. Rock's Feather is great, but it's the one that lets you jump in Link's Awakening. Yeah. Rock's Feather, if I was making my own list, would probably be 8th or 9th on my favorite. But because of the rules that we built, it was actually my second favorite in that episode. Again, it'd probably be preceded. There'd be 6 or 7 items from Twilight Princess that would come before Rock's Feather, but I thought it was important. Now, this was very interesting. Our poll on Twitter, and I threw a bunch of hashtags in there, so I think people might have seen the poll without the context of our episode. Get this, I don't know if you have seen this data yet because the poll just ended this morning as of recording, and the double claw shot, I'm sorry, got 0 votes.
Yay!
But the spinner came in 3rd ? Because what tied for 1st and 2nd was the remote bombs and Rock's Feather.
Okay.
And for the longest time, remote bombs was winning. And like I said, it was only out there for a day, but we got a couple more votes on Rock's Feather as well.
I should have picked the remote bombs.
Rock's Feather from Link's Awakening and the remote bombs from Breath of the Wild on Twitter, just for one day, were the winning items. Crazy, huh?
Yeah, they're the most, I think, useful for an entire game. It's not just like a little moment here or there. So I can understand that, where you're going to use it the entire game and they're like integral to the game.
The remote bombs?
I think so.
Yeah, I think they're more integral to the game than the spinner or the double claw shot in Twilight Princess.
Yeah, so I'm saying I think that may be why people were more drawn to those.
And you kind of spoke to this in the episode, but it was like, bombs. Like there's always bombs in Zelda games. Why is that so special? But they did kind of reinvent the bomb for Breath of the Wild, and I think for the better.
Yeah, and they've always kind of, you've always been able to throw them or roll them, but it was just so much more realistic in Breath of the Wild that you had to really think about what you're doing, whereas in the other games you can just kind of like figure it out really easily. Okay, well I just need to move to, a little increment to the right and then just throw it in, it's fine. But this is like, there's so many other things that come into play. It's
super cool. And I also
Can I change my top answer?
I also love, well, I don't know, because I think I personally still prefer the double claw shot over the remote bombs, even though they're really fun. But that claw shot was a blast to use when you used it. And we have one more tweet here on Twitter, actually about replying to the Link's Loves episode again. And Aaron Knepp here mentioned, interesting podcast. I really enjoyed it, but you forgot about one. Navi, sorry, I almost said Navy. Navi is obsessed, all caps, with Link.
That's true.
I guess.
Or is it? I don't know if I should say he or she. I guess she.
I would say it's a female interpretation.
Is she obsessed with everything? Look at this door. Hey, listen to this other thing.
Hey, I'm not a game device. I care. Hey. All right, Kate. Well, that was really fun to talk about. And remember, everybody, that you can tweet things, even as we now go forward and talk about some of our favorite NPCs. You can tweet us at Another Zelda Pod, or you can find us on Facebook and YouTube by searching Another Zelda Podcast. And we love it when you leave comments, because there's actually more comments to talk about, but I'm going to save them for future episodes.
Cool.
And it's really just great to hear other people's thoughts.
Yeah.
So as we talk about our NPCs here, I think like if we talk about someone that you agree or disagree with, or you think of someone that we didn't think of, we would love to continue that conversation.
Or debate whether it's actually an NPC or not. Fight me, because I might be wrong.
Well, Kate, I know that you're steering this episode, but to get us back over to the episode, let me ask you this. What is your definition of a non-playable character in a Zelda game?
So, more so, I guess I would think that it would be a character that you just come across that's not necessarily integral to the story, not a main thing. But I can't really say that because a couple of mine are characters that are important. Actually,
there's a Reddit thread out there discussing if Ganon is an NPC or not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's like characters you meet along the way.
Sure. And I think that's what I mostly thought. But then again, like, is a boss an NPC because you're playing against it?
I know, it's tricky. I personally think probably not.
Well,
but if you have some, that's great. We'll talk about it. Because, I mean, it's all great. This is just an excuse to talk about colorful characters in the Zelda universe.
Well, I picked that one in particular more because of, like, the dialogue that you're reading on the screen more than, like, how you play against them. But that also kind of comes into, I don't know, it's a gray area.
Well, and I think there are times where NPCs become bosses in plenty of games, maybe sometimes in Zelda games. You have a character, and all of a sudden by the time by the third act of a game or something, you're then battling that character that you've had for a while.
Right.
That stuff kind of shows up.
I almost wonder if I thought about some of these as just favorite characters in general.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because
what do you got? You have pages of notes. I have a page or two of Google Doc notes, but I want to see what you have.
Yeah, I have a few that I wrote down here. Most of them are just characters that made me smile or laugh.
And again, these are characters from like any game that you've played so far.
Yeah. They're going to be mostly from Ocarina of Time and newer because that's just where I started.
Well, that's what's fun. We've talked about this on this show before. You were introduced to Zelda at Ocarina, and you've mostly engaged with the console releases. And it's kind of fun that because of this show, you're able to dive back into some of the handhelds.
Yeah.
By the way, Kate, I think the next maybe like handheld game we review is Game Boy Advance Four Swords Adventures.
Okay.
I found a couple cartridges at a used game shop, and I think I'm going to go pick them up, and then I think we should like play together.
Okay.
We might have to take a day and put it in our schedule because Four Sword Adventures is a multiplayer Zelda game.
Yeah, I don't know how that even works.
You plug in your little game links through the Game Boys. And there was also a Game Boy release as well, or GameCube release as well, where you used the Game Boy
that one is what
link
I saw.
cords.
Okay.
Right. But Four Swords Adventures for Game Boy Advance came out first. And we'll talk about that in a couple episodes I think next episode we're talking about art styles. And Four Swords Adventures certainly will be important in that episode. So I digress and give it back to you. I apologize.
Cool. Okay. All right. So let's start. These are in no particular order, by the way. We're not ranking or anything like that.
Right.
So I just kind of wrote down ones that I thought of from game to game to game. However, my first one is a character that's recurring, and you come across him quite often, and that would be my buddy Beetle.
What? I've got him on the top of my list here.
I like Beetle.
Not top of the list favorite, but he was the first character I thought of when I was putting my notes together. Perhaps you as well.
He was one of my first ones, yeah, because Beetle makes me laugh every time.
Yeah.
I like the voice acting. Thank you.
Thank you. I love in Wind Waker. I'm playing Wind Waker HD right now, and in Wind Waker, when you leave his boat, he gets sad.
Oh.
He looks down, looks off to the side.
no.
He's just trying so hard to be a shopkeeper.
And then in Skyward Sword, he gets mad if you
Does
do not
he?
buy anything. If you don't buy anything from him, he kicks you out of his airship. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
There's like a trap door that he drops you out of if you decide not to purchase anything.
I remember the trapdoor now. You're absolutely right. I kind of forgot about that. And actually, with Beetle, for me, I didn't like Beetle at all in Wind Waker. I was like, I don't like the interpretation of this character. I didn't love him in Skyward Sword. I was like, why are they bringing this character back? I didn't start to like him until Breath of the Wild.
That's where I think I feel the same way. Because when he was like, "Oh, you're here too? I think you're stalking me." Ha ha. Like, I think I laughed out loud,
Yeah.
which I do not do when I'm
He's more realized in
games.
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. And he's useful. So it's not just a character that you come across and talk to. Like, you can get important items from him, and it changes in Breath of the Wild, which is cool too. So he becomes a different, a more, I don't know, nuanced character, so
I
to
agree.
speak, because he'll have different stuff every
Well,
time.
in Wind Waker, he almost feels like someone's sad nephew. And then by the, in Skyward Sword, he has his own, he kind of is a little crankier. But by the time we get to Breath of the Wild, I felt like, oh, he's like an aspiring entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And he literally is carrying his shop around with him. But as soon as you go talk to him, he's really excited he's figured out how to have a countertop that he actually straps to his shoulders and stuff. And I was charmed by him in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. He's always excited to see you, and he's always joking around. And like I said, he's joking about that we're stalking him. I don't know if he jokes about us being in love with him too at one point or another. I feel like maybe I remember that.
Beetle has a lot to say. I do like that he is genuinely excited to see you every time.
Yeah. Even if you don't buy anything, he's okay with that. And he's very excited if you sell him stuff.
Yes, it's cute.
He wants to buy stuff from you too.
And we're going to talk about art styles in the next episode, but this is a situation where the Beetle aesthetic, Beetle's art style hasn't changed much through the games, even though arguably the at least 3 games that he's in, they have different art styles.
Yeah. He's like your buddy that will always be there, and that's why I love Beetle.
He's the only character in Breath of the Wild that I can excuse for having like a humongous pink Muppet nose, you know?
Because that's just Beetle.
That is not the art style of the game.
No, not at all. But yeah, I like him a lot. So that was one of the first
That's
that
cool. I remember the first time I saw Beetle in Breath of the Wild, I was like, oh gosh, really again? And then over time, after a couple hours of interfacing with him, I was like, oh, I'm glad happy to see Beetle again.
Yeah, you get to a stable or something, you're like, oh
Yeah.
good, Beetle's here.
It's true. And then going back into Wind Waker HD, I had different emotions for Beetle, actually. I was projecting the stuff I brought in from Breath of the Wild. But anyway.
And I think it, plays into the strategy of Breath of the Wild too, where you have to kind of remember, like, okay, what is he selling at this place, and what is he selling at that place?
There is an economy in Breath of the Wild where different locations have different values on items.
And apparently, when it's raining, he sells different items as well. Is what
Many of the traveling shopkeepers, you could say, change their prices and items if it's raining or nighttime.
Or nighttime.
Things like that.
Another awesome thing about that game that
God,
I
I
never
love
would
it.
have even thought of if
Yeah,
I
it's so
was
cool.
designing something like that. So yeah, Beetle was one of the first ones that I thought of.
That's great. That's
So
great.
I'm sorry
What
for
else?
stealing one
I
of
have
yours.
a couple others that I thought of, but they're kind of, I want to save them towards the end of the episode because they're kind of meta characters, or they're characters that I like for meta reasons outside of the game.
Okay.
So let's talk about those like maybe after the break or something. But what else do you have here?
Another one that I have. So this is one where it is a boss, but kind of more I like their story than the boss battle.
The
I know.
nerd wars begins.
So
It is an NPC. It's not an NPC.
yeah, I don't know. You can
Cool character.
people can yell at me on social media.
We should have just gone with
okay.
alliteration and called this cool characters.
Yeah, well, we'll just change
Switch it up in post.
So what I thought of was, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering the pronunciation, but Kotake and Kume, the witches, sort of, so to speak, in Ocarina of Time. So they're Kotake and Kume by themselves, and then they turn into Twin Rova is the boss. So I think it's cool that it's 2 different characters that morph into one. I don't know if
One's red and one's blue, or one's fire and one's ice.
One's
or
fire
something
and one is ice.
Yeah.
So that's cool because there's always a fire and a water, as we talked about before, fire and water elements to the game. But I don't know that I've seen it before or since, like combined in that way, at least in one boss.
Yeah, I remember them combining in that boss fight was cool.
Yeah. So that's part of why I like them. But I also just liked the whole dialogue where like he's just kind of standing there while they're yelling at each other and arguing with each other about who's younger than the other one, and he's just kind of like,
because
okay.
they're 2 separate they're twins, but they're separate entities, and I think they use magic to combine. It's not like
Yes.
they go to their true form, which is it's not one character split into two. I think it's two characters that combine for a little bit.
Yep.
And I can kind of like I can nerd debate this that they might actually be an NPC. As frustrating as debating can be, I will point out that in Majora's Mask, they are NPCs. They're running the shop over there in the Deku Swamp.
Oh, okay. See,
Or at least one of them is. And then another one lives somewhere else, and you got to go do a little fetch quest. Bring one potion to another witch.
See, I gotta play that game again as much as it drives me crazy with the time limits, because I didn't even know that.
Their character models are not bosses in Majora's Mask, so I think this fits.
Yes.
We'll take it.
I win, and I didn't even realize it. Okay.
No, they're cool.
And I had found out I don't know if I didn't catch this during part of what they were saying or a different character said this or if I don't know, I missed it. But I missed that they were Ganondorf's surrogate mothers.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, like
that's in my books that I have.
Well, let's talk
and
about
I had
that.
read that as
you
well.
You have the Hyrule Historia and you have the Art and Artifacts Zelda books.
Yeah.
Let's absolutely dive into that.
Yeah, so I had no idea, but they were like they raised Ganondorf.
So that
and
is.
I don't know why that doesn't come up more, or again, maybe I just skip past it.
They
or
raised
something.
raised him in Ocarina of Time canon.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and I don't know. I guess I don't know or don't remember how that relates to the Gerudo.
Because he spends a lot of time with the Gerudo in Ocarina.
Yeah.
He's like their king or whatever.
Yeah.
I think king in quotes.
Right. I think he just he made himself be.
In Breath of the Wild, yeah, right, yeah. In Breath of the Wild, he has no relation to the Gerudo.
Yeah. I kind of
In
wish
fact-
they
in fact,
showed
they
up again
just-
in Breath of the Wild. That would be kind of cool.
Who? What?
Kotake and Kume.
Yeah, that would have been neat, actually.
To see
Are there
them-
any witches at all in Breath? Because I can't help but think about like Trixie in Link's Awakening, which that character was realized before these witches in Ocarina. I think Ocarina is their debut. There's a witch character in the Oracle series, and a couple weeks ago, I encountered a witch character, Pixie or something like that, in Minish Cap, and she's kind of an homage to Trixie from Link's Awakening.
That would make sense. The names.
But these witches that you're speaking about, and I forgot their names already, they have a very specific look.
Yes. And I would have liked to see that, reimagined in Breath of the Wild with, the better
Breath
graphics.
of the Wild aesthetic,
Yes,
I guess.
yes. So I don't know. They just made
Cool.
me laugh when I think it's partly the sound effects too. I just remember when they're arguing and getting and they go to heaven somehow. How is that?
Wait, is that what they say when you defeat them?
So they get little halos over their heads, and then a beam of light shoots down and sucks them up.
Wow.
And you're like, I don't think that they'd be going in that direction.
They're
Personally.
witches. They're witches using dark magic.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm curious to know why that happened. What the
I wonder if that's
choices
like
were
a lost in translation cultural kind of thing, where the West often clearly has distorted and mutated and misinterpreted like ninjas and stuff like that, and turned it into its own thing, not understanding the origins. Perhaps it's like. The idea of that's how some cultures communicate death and passing to the next whatever.
Right.
Whereas like a Catholic or a Christian perspective, and perhaps a few others, but mostly Catholic would do the whole halo, and that means heaven and all the rest.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Or it's almost like it came from a Tom and Jerry cartoon.
Well, it's
or
like
something.
the original. Yeah, no, and that's what it is. It's probably really just like a American culture. Yeah, when something dies, they turn into a little ghost and they go up.
And they go up into the beam of light. Yeah.
And when what is that? The religious implications are overlooked.
And I just think it's so funny that they're the ones that ended up going to heaven. I don't know why
I get it.
them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think. Yeah, right. That could easily be a cultural, mistake or whatever. But I'm fine with it.
It was like the first. I don't know. I think one of the first parts in Ocarina of Time that just made me laugh. Like, this is weird for a video game because I hadn't played that type of game before. So I'm sure you know that kind of silly element with the dialogue that's happening has existed before. And I guess I do now that I have played Link's Awakening. There's some of that in there where they're just saying bizarro things that are clearly meant to be funny, and you're just like, that's odd. But I don't know. It was one of the first times in that game that I found just.
Zelda gets
amusing.
weird once in a while.
It does.
I can't help but think about how, like in the original The Legend of Zelda, Link had a Christian cross on his shield, and they eventually changed that and stuff because Nintendo usually steers away from. In fact, they have a pretty strict rule about not having religious content in their games.
I think that might be another episode.
Well, that could be interesting.
Because I had watched a video on YouTube about that too, about all the different religious kind of references.
Castlevania falls victim to that here and there, but then it's interesting because, in my opinion, one thing that I've enjoyed about the Zelda series in release order, not canon chronological order, but in release order, I do feel that the Zelda games have started to skew away from the kind of European Christian or Catholic medieval castles and knights and swords and that kind of culture. And many games, starting with Twilight Princess and definitely going into Skyward Sword, started skewing more like Eastern inspired and stuff like that. So. A lot of the music sounds like it's coming straight out of Japanese culture. And I love that. I love that it's becoming kind of its own universe.
Yeah. I like the integration of both of them. Honestly, it makes for really unique.
And you might have shrines, and there might be some I know that there are the tokens, the little tokens that hang on ropes. That's been around since Twilight Princess, and that's a certain Eastern culture significance. I don't know if it's necessarily religious or not, but it has kind of grayed out a little bit. So yeah, to see the ghosts go up to heaven. I guess, are they angels?
They don't. I don't think they have wings, but they have halos.
I think by European religious standards, they might be angels.
Yeah.
Well, that's weird.
So
we won't read into it too much.
So yeah, that's
too cool.
I have a lot.
Yeah,
it'd
be nice to see them return.
Yeah,
perhaps in Breath of the Wild 2.0.
One can only hope.
I'm praying. Oh, that's funny. I'm praying. That's just an expression. I'm hoping
maybe they'll hear your prayers from Witch Heaven.
I am totally. I'm really excited about a Zelda sequel down the line. But I'm really excited about the possibility of just using the Breath of the Wild engine again and creating a Majora's Mask style sequel. What Majora's Mask was to Ocarina. I would love to see it. I've said it before on this show.
Okay.
Here's hoping.
So do you want to go to one of your characters? Do you want to take a break before we do that?
Let me do one here.
Okay.
Because it's a little silly. And then we can go to break. Sure. I think that's a great idea. So I have Old Man on my list here. Old Man from the original Legend of Zelda.
Okay.
He's the first NPC you encounter within the first 10 seconds if you go into the cave, right when you spawn, I guess. He's right there, and he just gives you, he's the
it's dangerous
to go alone gentleman. Right. And he kind of pops up a few other times in that game. And actually I think there's technically, if you really get deep into the canon, it's not just a single character. There's a couple different old men. There's certainly some old women and stuff like that. But in my opinion, he also pops up. It's the same character that pops up in the first dungeon in The Legend of Zelda. And he's the one that gives you the kind of obscure hints.
Yeah.
Like easternmost thing is the secret and all that. And Dodongo doesn't like smoke. In the second temple, he'll give you, usually you'll find him as a secret in a temple, or a dungeon, and then he'll give you obscure secrets, which is kind of cool and fun. And I also think that the Old Man has been realized in other Zelda games. He's kind of spiritually come back around. There's clearly a reference to the Old Man in Breath of the Wild.
I was going to say, the
person
first
you talk
person
to.
you talk to.
Yeah, no, they give it a little twist there, and they have it turn out to be an important character. But I felt like that was a direct reference. Now, original Old Man is bald. He has a huge beard and stuff like that. And it is a little bit more of the Eastern European aesthetic, I guess, whereas the current Old Man, well, he's kind of got that too. But let's see, Old Man. He's also realized, some people say that there's an aesthetic similarity to the first sage in Ocarina.
Okay, yeah.
I think that's true.
I can see that.
There could be some of that. I don't think the Old Man is a sage or anything like that in the original The Legend of Zelda. I think he's not a celestial entity. I think he's a carbon-based life form in Hyrule, okay. Which reminds me, in Breath of the Wild, he may not be a carbon-based life form.
I mean,
he might be
just kind of, a
hallucination,
appears
or
out of
manifestation of sorts. So the reason, though, I also secretly love the Old Man character is because of an out-of-game reason. Have you ever seen the internet series? It was very, very popular. It originated maybe 7 years ago, called The Legend of Neil.
Okay. No, but I've heard about it, and I'm going to get yelled at for not.
I am in
having
love with that series. I remember when it first came out, I was like, what is happening? It was a mildly low budget. They got a little bit more money as they went. They started having makeup effects in season 2 and stuff like that. But in season 1, it was just some friends basically jumped out in the forest and kind of made it was a parody. It was an homage and a bit of a parody to the original The Legend of Zelda game.
It's on my list.
And in the beginning, beat for beat, so this main character Neil gets sucked into the video game for reasons, and he then is living as Link going through the Legend of Zelda game.
Mm-hmm.
So he meets an Octorok right off the bat, and he meets the old man to give him a sword, and he has a hard time in the first dungeon, and finally pushes a stone to the side, which reveals the old man again.
Okay.
Well, anyway, the old man, who is played by Mike Rose on this series. I'll show it to you on our break, I think, because I think I am going to show it to you when we go on break here because it's worth it. He puts a caricature onto this NPC that for me, I cannot play The Legend of Zelda now and not hear this characterization of the old man. He's hysterical, Mike Rose, as the old man. It's just the best. I mean, they do like little silly bits where he's like, I'm old man. And then Neil, aka Link, says, oh, okay, old man. He's like, no, old man. Like he's not pronouncing it quite right. And he, there's just a lot of great bits about that. Maybe I'll put a link to that first episode in our show notes here.
Yeah.
We have no affiliation. I'm just a huge fan. It was certainly season 1 was just absolutely hysterical. And I remember it being very funny in the following seasons. Felicia Day played one of the fairies in that movie, in that show. It was back when she was still doing the World of Warcraft show, which I can't remember the name of it. I mean, it wasn't officially World of Warcraft, but anyway, it was her series.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
It was kind of around the Dr. Evil, not Dr. whatever. I don't want to go there. But anyway, Legend of Neil, old man is forever changed for me because of this show.
Oh, nice.
And Mike Rose, whoever he is, wherever he is, he probably lives in California, did a wonderful portrayal, and it's just hysterical. And I can't wait to show it to you if we're going to break right now.
Yeah, I guess let's go to break before we continue on with our other
Excellent.
favorite.
After that, I have another kind of meta NPC, which maybe we'll save to the end of the episode.
Interesting.
Can't wait to hear about some of your others.
All right.
Awesome.
So we'll see you in a little bit. All right, we are back from our short little break here with David, and I'm Kate,
Yep.
in case you forgot.
And you saw old man.
Yes, I did. Thank you for showing that to me. It's a little more explicit than I think
you expected?
we would be on our show.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, that's true. A little disclosure for Legend of Neil. It's definitely quite R-rated.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
Not for the kids.
Not for the kids. Maybe we'll still put the link down. But that came out in 2012, I saw, too, when we were Googling it here during the break. My goodness.
All right, so I think it's my turn then for the next favorite. Or one of the favorites.
Well,
Again, these are not in any
If
order.
you have a few, let's talk about it. I only have one.
A few more. I think I have like one honorable mention too. But so the next one I have is also from Ocarina of Time because I don't know, I like that game a lot. Obviously,
Yeah.
So,
I'm loving this because I couldn't think of a single NPC from Ocarina.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it was weird.
I mean, it's not like they're these amazing, fleshed out characters. They make me laugh or
I love it.
Make me smile. So I picked, and again, I probably say everyone's names wrong, but Darunia.
Okay.
Who is a Goron.
He loves to dance.
He loves to dance. And that's actually probably the reason why I picked him, because that was another moment in the game where I was like,
Oh,
okay.
yeah. Feel the beat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So yeah, he's also the Sage of Fire. So he comes back later on. You get to see your buddy again, and he's very kind and loving, and he wants to give Link a hug all the time, and
that's right.
ends up chasing him out because.
And it's funny too because he starts off. I remember the first time I encountered him, I was kind of scared of him. He had, he has a gruff appearance.
Yeah.
And
not
I thought he was
quite sure what to think.
Not a cool guy, but
he's a big sweetheart.
Ends up being a sweetheart,
and that's why I like him. I don't know. I like that you have to make him dance to progress in the game. That tickles me.
Oh yeah. What is it? It's a certain. You have to go learn a certain tune. Or
Saria's song makes him dance,
which you already know going in there. But you just have to know to use it.
I think you already know it, but.
Yeah, because don't you get Saria's song after the...
I wonder if you talk to him and then you have to go back because, that's in every Legend of Zelda game where you get somewhere, you have to go back,
get something else.
Back to a place that you've already been and then go back to
Because Zora's
first one?
domain, it's all about the Zelda lullaby.
Correct.
And he needs Saria's
He
song.
needs Saria's song.
He needs to
and
hear
he
the music of the
loves
forest.
that melody so dang much. And I like that little cutscene with the weird camera angles. And
They
it's
are
like
flying all over the place.
diagonally zoomed into his face. And he's twirling around like a crazy person. And I don't know. I just like him because he's big softy.
I feel like
but
there was
he's
a
also
couple-
very powerful. And he's your buddy. And he calls you brother.
Yeah, and that actually
Hulk Hogan.
continues with all Gorons. That kind of
Yes,
created the
that's true.
culture a little bit. No, yeah, but
Where
it
Link is
began
always
there.
brother.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. That's just a quick one where he's very enthusiastic, and I like that.
I think Darinia is also represented in the sculpture in Breath of the Wild.
I was gonna say, yeah, they definitely have to pay homage to him.
Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, it has been from the creators of Zelda. It was deemed to be true that Breath of the Wild comes after Ocarina of Time in canon.
Oh,
is cool.
okay.
Where it
Interesting.
fits
So-
where it fits in that branch, I'm not so sure. But the references to Ocarina that are in Breath of the Wild apparently are 1-to-1. So like the Lon Lon Ranch, the destroyed Lon Lon Ranch.
Yeah, that's right.
So you could imagine that part of the land actually was the middle of Hyrule Field. So the middle of Hyrule Field in Breath of the Wild loosely was also the middle of Hyrule Field in Ocarina.
Okay.
There's a lot of other things that don't quite line up geographically, but that's the concept anyway, apparently.
Interesting. Yeah, so Darunia was just, I guess, my pick because I kind of like the Gorons all the time.
Yeah, really?
They're all just kind of
Yeah.
nice, friendly people that want to help you generally. Sometimes they're a little
that's a good
grumpy
point. That's a
from
good
time to time. But I just picked him as the patriarch. My choice is my
He's
favorite Goron.
Certainly more interesting than what is it, King Zaru or Zuba Zuba? The guy that sits in front of the place when you want to go talk to Jabu Jabu.
Yeah.
King Zora, maybe. It's just King Zora, perhaps.
I think so. But definitely more interesting.
That guy's nice,
He's just sitting there.
Horrible mode of transportation, butt cheeks.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's a quick one of mine.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's cool. What else do you have? I'm going to think about a few here.
Okay, so here's another one that again, I listened to another podcast where they call it a go with me here. So this is a go with me here.
What? I see.
Like go with me. Just
Hear me out.
Hear me out. Because technically she's kind of playable, which is Midna. In that you can kind of use her to.
Well, if Navi is an NPC, then Midna is.
So that's the reason I picked her over Navi,
Mm-hmm.
because she kind of is, she's your guide, but she's also not super annoying.
Yeah, it's true.
She's helpful. She's helpful in that you really can use her, and that's again where maybe the playable part comes in.
She has mechanics that you do have control over executing.
Yeah,
But narratively, or like the way you engage with her is pretty NPC-like.
and that's why I picked her. Because if I couldn't use her to like jump from place to place, I wouldn't care. If that, fine.
If anything, it's almost like they shoehorned. It feels like that was shoehorned in more. It was like, oh, we have this Midna character. Oh shoot, we have to give her more powers.
Right. And if that wasn't part of the game, fine, I would still like her because she is sassy and sarcastic, and another character that just made me smile, and that she just did not give a crap. But then she also starts to care. So she's nuanced in that she's thinking about herself at first. She's using you to get to, the means to an end.
I mean, I came around with Midna. I kind of think she's great.
Yeah. And so that's why she's one of my choices. And then by the end, she's invested in Zelda and Link and the world of light, and starts to care. So she's cynical, and that's why I like her. She's in my opinion, the most useful guide character of the game. That's
so
kind of going along with you the
She's
whole time.
driving the game forward. You're helping her on the side. Maybe she is a bit like Link's sister in Wind Waker in that part of the quest is to complete that storyline. You're helping Midna return things to the Twilight, but you're also saving Hyrule. And you kind of are also saving Hyrule. It gets weird in Wind Waker because Hyrule's buried or whatever. But I actually liked Midna pretty much from the get-go.
Yeah. And I like cared about her too. When she gets injured, I cared and wanted her to be okay.
Is she ever not? Is she ever on her own? There's a portion of the game where she's not with you, and then you meet her. But I think she's never really off on her own, and then you are without. Are there times where you're just the dog without her on your back? I think there is 1 or 2 times where graphically, and I think technically there's this like kind of a little bit of a bug in Twilight Princess because her shadow still shows up.
Oh, really?
On your shadow on the ground.
Oh, I didn't
so I
even
think
know
what
that.
they did is they just took the opacity of her polygons and put them down to 0. Because the light rendering or whatever, however they render the light in Twilight Princess, her shadow still shows up a few times when you're just the wolf all on your own.
Interesting. I also like that her look changes. It's cool for her to go from, her like imp-like form into her.
Yeah, I had mixed
queenly
emotions
form.
about that. I like
Yeah.
it too. I do like it too, but I was a little cynical when she changed, and I was like, "Cool, Nintendo, you just had to make sure that people could sexy cosplay as her."
That's right. You had brought that up before. But I thought, I don't know, it was a cool character design.
Yeah, she has an elegance to her.
Yes.
Once she does transform, I liked her as in her imp form as well, though.
And it's another character that's different, that I hadn't really seen something like that before, because it's always been, Zelda is the main female character, so to speak, and this in Twilight Princess, it's kind of not.
Have you ever had a character that's really right there with you since Twilight Princess? Skyward Sword does not.
Skyward Sword has Fi or
Yeah,
Fi or
and she's closer to a Navi.
Yeah. But she does her little dance and tells you stories and stuff like that. So she's there. But
Boy, they really were trending towards artificial intelligence, weren't they? So they had Navi was basically like some weird twisted version of a Siri or something. Is kind of what it felt like they were going for. And then Milo's chiming in here.
Milo's distracted.
Hi, dude.
He wants to join in the conversation.
He's
He has
poking his
strong
head.
thoughts.
What's that?
He has strong thoughts.
Strong thoughts
He wants
about
to express them.
Fi. Faux fum? So sorry. It's like I couldn't do it. But and then when we go to Breath of the Wild after Skyward Sword, we are actually just using technology. I mean, Link runs around with an iPad, basically.
Yep. So I wonder if that means they're not going to have the little guide character anymore. And I don't know how I feel about that.
It may not be as necessary. Zelda hangs out with Link in Spirit Tracks. She's kind of the side character.
Okay.
And you use her as a mechanic. She has a ghost mechanic, and sometimes you actually play as her. I just thought, as you were talking about this, I recalled that a lot of people really like Groose in Skyward Sword.
Okay.
And because he starts off as a bully, and then he
That's
really
true.
comes
He
around. And by
comes
the
around.
end, he's like a best friend.
Yeah. I like him too. Okay. But he's so annoying in the first part that I really
I know.
didn't pick him.
That's fair. That's why I'm kind of like honorable mentioning him or whatever.
Sure. But,
other people have enjoyed him.
But yeah, so she's my favorite of the sidekicks, so to speak. She's
That's
almost
neat.
not a sidekick. Like, she takes control almost more. She's like, okay, you have to do this now. She's like not a sidekick in a lot of Twilight Princess. Yeah, she's like, you have to do this for me.
Yeah, you're almost her
So
sidekick.
yeah, exactly.
Narratively, you're her sidekick.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yet another reason why the game is amazing.
I love Twilight Princess very much. So do you have any NPCs in Breath of the Wild that stick out for you?
I think so. I looked to kind of remind myself. I looked at a list, and there are like 70 billion in that game, and so I guess I couldn't pick one from Breath of the Wild because there's so many that I don't know if any of them really stuck out to me.
I'm not sure if I can really think of like, oh, that character at the thing. I just love going and talking to that character at the thing.
Right.
There's a couple standouts that do interesting things. There's the guy that informs you about the blood moons at the stable over by Twin Peaks.
Oh, sure.
Or not Twin Peaks. That's
Dueling
funny.
Peaks?
Dueling Peaks. Twin Peaks because Link's Awakening was kind of a spiritual channel of Twin Peaks, channeling of.
Well, we picked Beetle from, he was...
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. He was fun. There are some.
The prince from Breath of the Wild. I forget his name again. Prince.
Was it Maiden?
No, the one that...
Prince Maiden, right? Yeah, he was cool.
I liked
So
it. He was
all
kind
of the champions are interesting, but then they kind of have their ancestral representation character that you and Sidon, Prince Sidon.
Okay. Yeah.
He's not one of the champions, but he's the one that helps you get to the champion.
Right.
Mifa's the champion, but Prince Sidon,
Right.
helps you go there. He's pretty cool. You're right, and he keeps sticking up for you even after that narrative thread is done, where you have to convince the manta ray looking character that you're okay. He's kind of still there for you.
None of the champions like really the Rito one like
he's
annoyed
flat
me.
out annoying, and I think he's supposed to be arrogant and annoying. But I was just like, I don't even like hearing his voice when he's like, blah blah blah, Gale is back. I'm just like, shut up.
Yeah.
You're a jerk.
Talking to me.
But a lot of the Rito are kind of cocky. I just thought about that. The white bird that you have to go do the training levels with, kind of the ancestral representative that would bring you to the beast. He's a bit cocky too, actually.
Yeah. And the other ones I was just kind of like, okay. None of them had real like strong enough personalities, I guess. I don't know. Like
You don't really do. I think off the bat, some of those like it felt cool to save some NPCs from harm. As you're like going through, but then it gets a little Westworldy where it's kind of like, oh, they're getting attacked again. I'll go save them again.
Sure.
I just did this 2 nights ago.
What's the Benjamin Button lady?
Oh yeah,
she's kind of fun. And Snap.
So
she's kind of weird.
She is weird. I was like a little annoyed by her, but I understood where they were going with that.
I like that.
The kid that you have to do, the kid that you have to keep bringing new weapons to, he's kind of cute because he's like, yeah, show me how to use it.
Oh,
he's kind of like trying to do cool stuff. There are some unofficial cameos in Breath of the Wild, which is pretty neat. Satoru Iwata has a NPC that looks just like him, and then he's also kind of spiritually represented as that crazy glowing deer thing that shows up in the mountain where the pink blossoms are.
Oh man!
You know when the Aurora
There's
Borealis,
so much of this game I haven't played.
When the Aurora Borealis kind of shows up, the version of that on a mountain. Oh, I cannot wait for you to find this. I don't have notes on this. I'm just thinking about it right now. There's a moment where if you ever see a light glowing on a mountain, and I think it's in the kind of northeastern portion of Hyrule Field. It's just before you start going towards the Rito. If you see that light, go to it, because you will find a magical, mystical creature that is really beautiful. And it's a reference to Satoru Iwata, who passed, of course. And he was instrumental in bringing out the Wii. So many things. He started at HAL Laboratories, and he was an awesome coder, and he was the president of Nintendo for the longest time. And when Breath of the Wild was originally in development, he was involved, and he passed while they were developing it. So they paid homage to him. And there's a character that literally looks just like him in the game, and has glasses and stuff, and has the same part and hair. And I think that one's pretty kind of officially an NPC that references him.
So are those like maybe a couple honorable mentions for you, or you're just
perhaps? Well, there's one more too. There is an unofficial Robin Williams cameo in Breath of the Wild.
I didn't know that.
Now, Robin Williams is Milo's getting into stuff over here.
Milo's eating a box, so if you hear anything, I don't
think they'll hear it. I think we can just keep going here. So Robin Williams famously loved the Legend of Zelda series. So much
because his daughter's named
that
Zelda.
he named his daughter Zelda. In reference to the Legend of
Yeah.
I
forgot about that.
I mean, you could more specifically say after Princess Zelda herself. Sure. In fact, when Ocarina of Time 3D was coming out for the 3DS, Robin Williams and his daughter did a couple Nintendo commercials. Nintendo brought them in, and they played and stuff, and they were sweet commercials. They were cool. And let's see here.
So what is his cameo?
So what happened was, there is a character, and I have a picture here I'll show you, and I'll certainly put it up as an asset in our video feed, but this is all true. When Robin Williams died in 2014, the game was in development. There was actually a petition that was going around from Nintendo fans asking Nintendo to somehow put him in the next Zelda game, just to honor him, and because he was such a big fan. And Nintendo released a quote, a kind of a press release quote, and I'm going to read it to you, and then I'll continue the story here. But Nintendo's quote to this petition was, "We appreciate the outpouring of support from the gaming community and hear the request of fans to honor him in a future game. We will not be discussing what might be possible for future games during this difficult time." Of course, this was shortly after his death. "But we will hold our memories of Robin close." So it was a very PR way to say it, but it was saying like, yes, we are aware. We can't, there's nothing official, but we hold him close, right? Well, there is a character over near one of the stables that hangs out, and many people feel that this is a unofficial Robin Williams cameo. Take a look. This gentleman here has exactly his jawline, and also this NPC is not duplicated anywhere else in the game.
Okay.
This face right here.
I think I remember running into that one.
Yeah. And so, and Nintendo is kind of doing a thing where they won't say and won't not say.
Yeah.
So they're allowing it to be, because maybe, there might be legal things and stuff with that. And so I think that it is an unofficial, many feel that it's an unofficial cameo honoring the late Robin Williams.
Nice.
So that's kind of cool. So that
is
NPC
cool.
is fun to me, sticks out for me.
Absolutely.
That's really the last.
I wouldn't have thought of that.
Pardon me, that's the last one I have on my list. That's why I said it's like a little outside of the Zelda canon.
Sure. So I have a couple other ones. One super quick, and then I just thought of Shake, if that's right. Shake. Sheik.
I think it's Sheik. Well,
Sheik?
You're talking about Sheik from Ocarina.
Yeah, but doesn't Sheik appear in other games?
I don't think so.
So my thing is, I want Sheik to be like there all the time because
Zelda threw that costume away at the end of Ocarina.
I mean, but she's so badass. Sorry, I have to say it that way, but
Yeah.
I want that to be a bigger character.
Sheik only lives on in like Smash Brother things.
Oh, okay. So maybe that's what I'm thinking. Okay. But that's just a favorite character because she was kicking butt and she looked cool.
Yeah.
I loved that costume. I love the design of that character. She's musical too. Who knew?
Right?
So I wish that was a bigger character or recurring or maybe came about in a different way just so that we could see more of Sheik.
Before the reveal that it was Zelda, the first time playing through Ocarina, encountering this Sheik character intermittently and kind of feeling like this character is looking out for you, but also it was you weren't quite sure.
Right.
And there was a magic to it, and there was a reference to the oh my gosh, is it it's Impa? Oh, Impa is in Ocarina too, but she's the guardian, isn't she?
Yeah.
She's kind of she's expressed differently than certainly old Impa in Breath of the Wild.
Yes.
And Impa pops up in a few other games as well.
Okay.
She becomes a common kind of character. I thought Sheik was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Mysterious and exciting. And it was interesting to have a game where, in a game, for me, it was one of the first times. Now, certainly this probably happened in like Final Fantasy games and other role-playing games that preceded Ocarina. But to have a character kind of just jump in here and there. Because a lot of times in Ocarina, it's like I go to the town and I talk to those characters and I experience those characters in that part of the story. And very rarely do they go to other parts of the story. Very rarely will someone show up from this town into a different town. Breath of the Wild does that a little bit more. But narratively speaking, in Ocarina, there isn't too much of that.
She's like the old man
Maybe a little bit.
of Ocarina, almost.
Perhaps. Well, maybe
Like
she's
your
old
guide.
woman, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Old Woman is not called like a witch or anything in the original The Legend of Zelda. I think it is just Old Woman, or maybe it's something else. I can't quite recall. But yeah, Sheik's awesome.
Yeah.
I've always called him, it, her, Sheik.
Okay, that's fine. Again, I don't know how to say most
in
of
my
these names.
opinion, it is Zelda, so it is she. But I do feel that Zelda is essentially cross-dressing as Sheik. I think that Zelda is trying to present as male when she's in Sheik form.
Right. I agree.
Think most would agree on that.
And why can't Zelda just be Sheik all the time? Like if she's that.
Well, heck, why can't Zelda just like be Zelda and do that stuff too?
That's
like
true.
Maybe she's got to put her superhero Sheik costume on to do it. But I think she was
That's
obviously in Ocarina she was doing
She
it because she was
needed-
trying to hide her identity.
Correct.
And with Link and all that kind of stuff. So it would be cool to see Zelda kick that kind of butt too.
Yeah.
Just as Zelda, she's obviously
She's
capable.
capable of kicking so much more butt.
It's neat.
So maybe that's what I wish Zelda was all the time, and that's why I picked Sheik.
Awesome, love it.
And then one of my really quick ones I have to remember.
Oh, pages
the
are turning.
Name. Yep. Okay, so it's Malo in Twilight Princess, which is the sassy baby.
Oh my gosh, Malo.
I just love a sassy baby.
So he was a character that the first time I played, I was like, over it. I'm not into it. And by the
Like,
second or
what
third or
on
fourth,
earth is this thing?
yeah. By my like third or fourth Twilight Princess playthrough, I was starting to become quite charmed with Malo.
If I was reincarnated as a baby, that would be the personality that I would have. It's just like everything's stupid. Wow, like
Everything's
everything
stupid.
is-
And then but once I think I put it together, I was like, wow, this little genius child
Yes.
is running a store.
Yep.
It doesn't really have good people skills yet. It's just like, pick something, will you?
Yeah.
Or whatever. Buy something. I'm trying to make a living
buy
here.
something.
Maybe perhaps the most mature person from Ordon Village, the most entrepreneurial, certainly,
is the baby.
is the little baby.
I don't know if Malo is an actual baby, but he's clearly the Also, I couldn't tell if it was a girl or a boy when
You
I
kind of
first
can't tell, and
played.
I would say that it's at least a child.
Right.
Malo's at least a child.
Right. But I mean, yeah, because he or she is short, very short.
Yeah.
And that's what made it funnier to me, was this little bitty person just being so, just whatever.
Yeah, right.
Look at this amazing story I have. Buy something or leave. So I don't know.
That's
I
funny.
like Malo.
Yeah, the NPCs don't show up as much in some of the early handheld games. They're just to kind of facilitate. There are some clever little characters in Link's Awakening.
Yeah, you could say like the little, I don't know, I'm just a kid. Maybe that's one of my favorite ones from Link's Awakening.
Yeah, they get a little meta there.
The little kids.
You're supposed to push up and B, and I don't
heard
really know what
this.
that means, but I've heard it.
I'm a kid. I don't know. I'm playing catch.
I do like it when early on in that game when you come back from the beach and the kids are playing catch, but they run to you and they're trying to explain what's going on in the village. That disaster has struck in the village, and they're like losing their breath, and it's being represented just as like ... And at a certain point, they're like, maybe it'll just be quicker if you just go take a look.
So I guess I thought of that one too. I'm like, maybe I should put
That's super cute.
the random kids from Link's
Now,
Awakening.
you and I are admittedly less knowledgeable about A Link to the Past. In fact, that is probably one of my kind of, not guilty pleasures, but guilty regrets, missed opportunities. I haven't played that game as much. I mean, I played it up through into like the Dark World one time, and I really owe it to our listeners to dive into that game and play it a little bit more. But if people are listening to this show and they can think of some NPCs that they enjoyed,
I mean, there are so many that we haven't gone over.
all over the place. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But even in Link to the Past, I will say that in A Link to the Past, I keep accidentally confusing it with Link's Awakening.
Link's to the Past.
Link Possessive Awakening, because
A Link's Awakening to
two
the Past.
games are kind of connected from a development cycle thing behind the scenes, and so I often get a little tongue tied. But A Link to the Past did have some of the first times where we were seeing. I didn't say that correctly, but I loved interfacing with Zelda right in the beginning of that game. She follows you. She's talking with you. You're feeling. You take her out of the prison, and she's coming with you, and then you are taking her through the caves in the beginning, and there's kind of an NPC thing. It's not a fetch quest. It's not a fetch quest. It's not a protect the whatever mission. But that was kind of cool. So that game did some nice things with NPCs in the villages too. Villagers would walk around and maybe they would stop, or if they saw you, they would move away. There was the artificial intelligence of the NPCs, in my opinion, started to grow for the first time in A Link to the Past. I will point that out.
Cool. What about, could you think of any from Skyward Sword?
I have an odd relationship with Skyward Sword. I
Love,
wanted to
hate,
like
little
it.
bit.
Yeah, it's a very love-hate one for me. I enjoyed Twilight Princess so much, and it was so obvious that the motion controls were tacked on to Twilight Princess that I was very excited about Skyward Sword, because I was thinking to myself, I'm on the fence about motion controls. As I've said in other episodes, I'm technically pro the concept of like, get off the couch, you lazy bum.
Yeah.
Like, that's technically cool. But if the motion controls don't execute accurately, why are we doing it?
Sure.
And so Skyward Sword for me was difficult to emotionally deal
Connect
with. I
to.
loved that they were trying to be creative with the kind of pastel-y, blurry, painterly look, but sometimes that just became a blurry mess, and I couldn't see detail in the background that I wanted to see. They were doing that so that they could render further, because the Wii didn't have enough processing power to render deeper. So it was their version of fog. Like, when fog plagued the Nintendo 64, every game had fog in it. It's because they could only render out so far with the polygons. Skyward Sword's version of that is, well, we'll just render less polygons in the distance and we'll essentially make it blurry. Oh, no, it'll be a stylized blur so that it feels like it's an aesthetic. Something that I'm so grateful that Breath of the Wild doesn't have to do so much. So I spent a lot of time thinking about the mechanics of Skyward Sword instead of enjoying the universe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like Skyloft
And we kind of
wasn't
talked about,
super pleasurable to me. It was
I
fun
hated getting around Skyloft. I hated it.
a little bit. It was maze-like, and for me, not necessarily in a fun way.
Same. And we kind of talked about Groose, right?
Groose, yeah.
So maybe he's an honorable mention, so to speak.
Zelda's more of an NPC in Skyward Sword than other games,
Yeah.
in that you're having, you're interfacing with her a bit more.
Yep.
I guess she kind of does get like frozen up there pretty quickly, but I don't know. In the beginning, at least.
Yeah. I guess I agree with you that the game is just kind of like, It's there, and it doesn't really stand out to me. It's not one that I like right now want to go back and play.
I'm in the middle of playing Minish Cap right now, and I should maybe do like a little honorable mention about the Picori as NPCs, because Minish Cap does introduce an NPC mechanic that is not in other games, and that is this system of you get these little totems and you can share them. They're called Kingstones, and you share them, or Kinstones, I think it's Kingstone. You share them. Every single character, many characters, almost every single character has half of a totem, and you go around the world and you collect these totems, and you can try to combine them with other characters, and then secrets will be revealed and things will happen. And so it gives every single NPC a narrative reason for being there, but it also gives them kind of a larger game mechanic for being there as well. So that was kind of a fun way to deal with NPCs in Minish Cap.
Okay,
that's kind of cool.
Ooh, wait. Skyward Sword, is that with the oh man, gosh, I can't remember what they're called in that one. The little forest creatures.
The Kokiri. No.
Aren't they Kokiri?
Deku.
I don't know, but it's
the little Deku guys. They started
hide.
Wind Waker. So Wind Waker has the little shrubs that are technically actually the Kokiri, then de-evolved back into roots, not children anymore.
I think that's what it is.
Okay,
is that what it is in Skyward Sword? Oh my gosh, I have to check this now. Yeah, the Kikwi. That's what I'm...
Show me. Do you have a picture there? I'll put it up as assets.
So
send me that image so I can put it in our assets.
Those little guys. Remember those little guys?
Totally forgot about that.
Yeah,
You're right.
The one with the big mustache that goes Q.
I remember that now.
That noise always made me giggle. So, okay, I'll throw that one in because whenever I hear Q, like, what? I don't know. Obviously, there's very little voice acting in Zelda up until Breath of the Wild, but like, I am fascinated to know why that noise or why that sound. Like, what's going through your head when you're in a studio and they're like, I don't know, make a noise that you think this thing would do. It's like, Q. Okay, yeah, we'll use that. That sounds good.
Oh, I love it. It's great.
So that's my choice.
That's super cool. I feel like we're kind of wrapping up here. It looks like the time's coming, but this was really fun to chat about.
Yeah.
It makes me think that we should also put in our queue of episodes. We should do a favorite enemies episode.
Oh, sure.
And not bosses. Like almost like what are the simple enemies you meet along the way, which ones are interesting and not. Maybe we'll do that a couple months from now.
So many poll potential.
So many poll potentials.
Poll potential.
Should we put a poll together for this stuff?
Yeah, we could do that.
If we did 4, if we had to pick 4 out of, like if I put a Twitter poll up and we pick 4 of the ones we discussed today, what were some that you would you lobby to have be in there?
Throw Beetle in there.
Yeah, Beetle's in there? Okay.
That's a good one. I don't know. Do you think people will agree with Midna, or is that too much of a stretch?
It's a stretch.
You could throw Old Man in there since he's
and he's realized
frequent.
in other games too. Sure. And I think we'll make these, like I did with the items, we'll make them game specific. So I will actually probably have it be Old Man from The Legend of Zelda. I had to do that with the items because the boomerang works very differently in different games.
Sure.
Or the Pegasus boots even work differently. So it has to be, is it the Link's Awakening Pegasus boots, or is it the Minish Cap Pegasus boots, all that kind of stuff. Because in Minish Cap, you use Pegasus boots to get through swamps and stuff. It's really cool. You run so fast that you run over the muck and goop.
Oh.
Is how they do that one.
How useful.
It's kind of neat.
So we'll think of some more.
We'll think of some more. Beetle, Old Man. I mean, I will not put Satoru Iwata in there because I feel like that would just dominate because people feel so passionately about him, as do I. Well, I think maybe we'll throw a few others.
Yeah,
I'll put that tweet out when this episode comes out, and we'll see. Awesome.
Cool. Well, I think we're going to wrap this one up for now. So thank you for joining me today, David. And then we're going to go over...
it's just my pleasure, Kate. It's just my pleasure.
We can go over where you can find us and the show and ourselves. So you can find me on Instagram at my... screen name is still, for the time being, I only take cat pics. So you will find many pictures.
I love that your screen name's a statement. It's almost it's a sentence.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing about Instagram is you can change it to whatever you want, whenever you want, and it doesn't matter.
Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah, no, you can.
I've never tried.
Yeah. I have one friend on there who's changed his name constantly to the point where I don't even know who it is. Like, I don't know that it's him because he changes his name pretty frequently.
Like on Twitter, you can change how you appear. But technically your handle doesn't change. So I just never really tried.
Yeah. So right now it's I only take cat pics. It'll probably be that way for a while because that's always going to be true. So
Yeah.
that's where you can find me. Where can they find you?
People can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Raptor Paint, all one word. And I'll do the sharing for the show.
Yeah.
We have an Instagram account called Another Zelda Pod, wherein we post like behind the scenes things. Sometimes we post weird little facts. Sometimes it's just if I'm playing one of the games that you and I talked about, I take a screenshot just for the fun of it. And sometimes it's just cartridges I'm working with. And I know like you posted that picture of Milo.
With Milo joining in on the conversation.
Trying to podcast with us, which is super cool. So you can always that's kind of our maybe our kind of behind the scenes bonus content experience.
Cats.
Is mostly expressed on our Instagram account, I would
Yeah.
say. Maybe it drips over into Facebook a little bit, but really we put most of our stuff over there.
Yes.
You can find us on Facebook by searching Another Zelda Podcast, and YouTube and our actual website. YouTube is Another Zelda Podcast. You can just search us. But also, if you just go to our actual website, anotherzeldapodcast.com, we have links there that feed out to Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and also to iTunes and Google Play and YouTube and all the different places you can
All
listen.
the things. I like you to go over that because I always forget which one is Another Zelda Pod and which one is Another Zelda Podcast.
So it's true. Twitter, it's Another Zelda Pod, and the reason I hesitated a second ago is because I was thinking maybe our Instagram is Another Zelda Podcast, but I think it is only Another Zelda Pod. Anyway, Instagram allows more characters in their handles than Twitter does. Regardless, searching Another Zelda Podcast probably
You'll
works
find
out great, and we love hearing from our listeners. It's really, really great. We record these things in chunks, and so it might take a couple episodes to reply, but we always love reading the comments, and we have more
Absolutely.
comments to talk about in the next episode.
Awesome. Well, I guess we'll say goodbye for now. So thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next time on Another Zelda Podcast.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Oh!